All right, so get ready because we're about to explore kind of a bizarre chapter of history, the Nazis'
Y-
obsession with the occult. We're going to unpack this world of secret societies and mysterious symbols and even quests for legendary artifacts.
Yeah.
Most people have probably heard about their ruthless pursuit of power, but um, did you know that they also dabbled in the supernatural?
It's a fascinating and often misunderstood aspect of the Nazi regime. I think, we tend to think of them as purely rational, brutal, but their ideology was really deeply intertwined with mysticism and esoteric beliefs.
Okay, so before we kind of dive into the shadowy world of Nazi occultism, let's set the stage a little bit. We're talking about Germany in the early 20th century,
Mhm.
a nation reeling from defeat in World War I, grappling with economic instability and you're really searching for a new identity.
Right.
How did this turbulent period contribute to the rise of these mystical ideas?
Well, imagine a society that's desperate for answers, desperate for something to restore their sense of pride and purpose. And in that kind of environment, radical ideas can take root and flourish, and that's exactly what happened in Germany. The chaos and disillusionment of the post-war years, it really created fertile ground for all sorts of extreme ideologies, including those with a mystical or occult bent.
So you've got this backdrop of social and political upheaval, and then you have these secret societies popping up,
Yeah.
whispering about ancient powers and hidden knowledge. It's like something out of a Dan Brown novel.
Right.
One name that always comes up in this context is the Thule Society. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, the Thule Society, it's shrouded in mystery, and its exact connection to the early Nazi Party is still debated by historians.
Okay.
What we do know is that it was founded in Munich just after World War One,
Okay.
and it attracted a mix of intellectuals, occultists, and anti-Semitic nationalists.
Wow.
So think of it as a breeding ground for some of the ideas that would later shape Nazi ideology.
I've always been kind of curious about their name, Thule. It sounds so mysterious. Where does that come from?
Yeah, Thule, it comes from ancient Greek and Roman legends.
Oh, wow.
It's described as this mythical land in the far north, a place of mystery and wonder. The Thule Society appropriated this name, suggesting suggesting they were seeking a return to a lost, idealized past, a time of Aryan purity and power.
Ah, so they're tapping into this idea of a mystical Aryan heritage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly fringe beliefs could have influenced the Nazis' obsession with racial purity and their belief in a master race. But what did they actually do? Do they hold seances, summon spirits?
Well, their activities were certainly a mix of the intellectual and the esoteric.
Okay.
They studied ancient texts, debated esoteric philosophies, and they delved into Germanic folklore and mythology, really looking for evidence of superior Aryan past.
But what about the occult aspect? Was there any evidence of rituals or attempts to contact supernatural forces?
There are accounts of rituals involving ancient Germanic symbols and the study of runes.
Oh, wow.
And they were fascinated by the idea of harnessing the power of these symbols to tap into hidden energies and achieve spiritual enlightenment. However, separating fact from fiction when it comes to the Thule Society, it's a challenge. They thrived on secrecy, and much of what we know comes from secondhand accounts and speculation.
So it's a bit like trying to piece together a puzzle with some pieces missing.
Yeah.
We know they existed. We know some of their members went on to prominent positions within the Nazi Party, but the extent of their direct influence on Hitler and the Nazis is still up for debate.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how something so shrouded in mystery can still hold such a grip on our imaginations.
Absolutely, and that's part of what makes this topic so captivating, right? It's
Right.
a reminder that even the most horrific events in history are often intertwined with complex beliefs and motivations that defy easy explanation.
Okay, so we've got this secret society, steeped in these esoteric ideas. And now let's talk about Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS Hitler's right-hand man and arguably one of the most powerful figures in Nazi Germany.
Mhm.
He was known to be deeply fascinated by the occult. It wasn't just a fringe interest for him, right?
No, not at all. For Himmler, the occult was deeply intertwined with his vision for the SS.
Oh.
He envisioned the SS not just as a military force, but as an elite order, a brotherhood bound together by shared beliefs and rituals.
And this is where Wheelsburg Castle comes in.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures of this imposing medieval fortress, and it screams evil lair. What was Himmler trying to create there?
Well, Wheelsburg became Himmler's pet project. He poured resources into renovating and transforming it into a spiritual center for the SS. He
Wow.
saw it as a symbolic representation of their power and their connection to a glorious Aryan past.
So it wasn't just like a headquarters or a training ground. He was trying to infuse the SS with a sense of mystical purpose
Yeah.
to create a kind of knightly order for the Nazi regime.
Exactly. And the castle's design and the symbolism incorporated into it really reflect this ambition. You'll find ancient Germanic motifs, runic inscriptions, and even a massive black sun symbol embedded in the floor of one of the main halls.
I have to admit that the black sun symbol is pretty unsettling. What's the significance of that?
Well, the black sun's meaning is still debated, but it's generally interpreted as a symbol of esoteric knowledge and hidden power. Some believe it represents a mystical energy source or even a gateway to another dimension. For Himmler, it likely represented the power and destiny of the Aryan race.
It's incredible how they took these ancient symbols and imbued them with their own twisted ideology. Like they were trying to rewrite history to create a mythology that justified their actions. And the castle itself, it becomes like a character in this narrative,
Yeah.
like a physical manifestation of their warped worldview.
Right.
Imagine SS officers gathering in those dimly lit halls, surrounded by these symbols, discussing their plans for racial purity and world domination. It's chilling stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's very chilling.
Okay, I'm officially creeped out now. But let's move on to something equally intriguing. The Nazis' obsession with finding mystical artifacts. We're talking about objects like the Spear of Destiny, the Holy Grail, and even the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
It sounds like something straight out of an Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
Why were they so obsessed with these objects?
Well, it wasn't just a fascination with history or archaeology.
Right.
These artifacts represented something far more profound to the Nazis.
Uh-huh.
They believed these objects held immense power, a power they could potentially harness to further their own ambitions.
So it's like they were trying to weaponize mythology, to turn these legends and stories into tangible tools for achieving their goals.
Exactly, yeah. Take the Spear of Destiny, for example.
Okay.
According to legend, this was the spear that pierced the side of Jesus Christ during the crucifixion.
Wow.
And the Nazis believed that whoever possessed this spear would inherit supernatural power and become invincible.
Wow. Talk about high stakes. So they're sending teams of researchers all over the world trying to track down these relics. Did they ever find any of them?
Well, that's where the historical record gets murky. There are reports of them acquiring certain objects, like the crown of Charlemagne, which they saw as a symbol of their claim to rule Europe.
Okay.
But when it comes to the big ones, the Spear of Destiny, the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, there's no conclusive evidence that they were ever found.
So it's a mix of historical fact and tantalizing speculation. It's easy to see how these stories would capture people's imaginations and fuel all sorts of conspiracy theories. But, what I find particularly interesting is that even amidst the chaos of war, they were devoting resources to this quest for mystical power. It says something about their mindset, doesn't it?
It certainly does, yeah. It suggests that for some within the Nazi leadership, their ideology wasn't just about political or military power,
Right.
but about tapping into something deeper, something more ancient and primordial.
Yeah.
They were searching for a way to transcend the limitations of the material world, to achieve a kind of spiritual dominance.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, how much did Hitler himself buy into all this? Was he a true believer in the occult, or was he just using it as a tool to manipulate the masses?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. Historians are still debating the extent to which Hitler personally embraced these occult beliefs. Some point to his documented interest in astrology and his fascination with ancient myths and legends as evidence of a genuine belief.
Right. I've heard that he was deeply influenced by the writings of Nietzsche and his concept of the Übermensch, the superhuman individual who transcends conventional morality.
Yes, Nietzsche's philosophy had a profound impact on Hitler's thinking. And it's not hard to see how the idea of the Übermensch could be interpreted through an occult lens.
Right.
But others argue that Hitler was a pragmatist, a master manipulator who understood the power of symbols and myths to inspire and control the masses. They believe he was using the occult as a tool for propaganda, not out of personal conviction.
So it's like a political magician using smoke and mirrors to create an illusion of power.
Right.
He's playing on people's hopes and fears,
Yeah.
their desire for a strong leader who can connect them to a glorious past.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important to remember that the Nazis were masters of propaganda. They understood how to use symbols, imagery, and storytelling to create a sense of awe and wonder around their regime. They tapped into the power of the subconscious, appealing to emotions rather than logic.
Okay, but even if Hitler was using the occult primarily as a tool for propaganda, wouldn't that still suggest that these beliefs held some sway over the German people? I mean, if they weren't receptive to these ideas, surely the propaganda wouldn't have been effective.
That's a valid point. You can't manipulate people with ideas that have absolutely no resonance with their cultural background or worldview.
Right.
Germany at that time was steeped in romanticism, folklore, and a fascination with the mystical, and the Nazis were able to tap into these existing currents of thought and twist them to their own ends.
So they're playing on these pre-existing cultural anxieties, these longings for a return to a simpler, more powerful time.
Yes.
It's a potent mix, especially in a society that's been traumatized by war and economic hardship.
Precisely. And that's why it's so crucial to understand the historical context within which these events took place.
Yeah.
The Nazis didn't invent these mystical ideas out of thin air. They
Yeah.
were able to exploit them because they already held a certain power and significance within German culture.
You know, one of the most enduring legacies of this whole Nazi occult narrative is the fascination with Nazi UFOs and secret technology.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the stories of flying saucers, secret bases in Antarctica, and advanced weapons powered by mysterious energies. Where did all this come from? Is there any truth to it?
Well, the Nazi UFO myth is a fascinating example of how history, speculation, and science fiction can intertwine to create a compelling narrative. It's true that the Nazis were experimenting with advanced technology, particularly in the field of rocketry and jet propulsion.
Right. The V2 rocket program is a prime example.
Exactly, yeah. But the idea that they were building flying saucers or developing weapons based on ancient occult knowledge is pure fantasy.
But why are these stories so persistent?
Yeah.
What is it about the Nazis that makes them such a fertile ground for these kinds of conspiracy theories?
I think it's partly because the Nazis themselves cultivated an aura of secrecy and mystery.
Right.
They were masters of propaganda, and they deliberately shrouded their activities in a veil of esoteric symbolism and cryptic pronouncements.
So they're creating this image of themselves as being in possession of hidden knowledge,
Right.
of having access to powers beyond the comprehension of ordinary mortals.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like they're inviting speculation and fueling the imaginations of those who are looking for answers outside the realm of conventional science and history.
Exactly. And the fact that they were defeated, that their regime collapsed in such a dramatic and catastrophic way
Yeah.
only adds to the mystique.
Yeah.
It's like a story that was never finished,
Yeah.
leaving a void that's easily filled with speculation and conjecture.
So you've got this potent mix of historical fact, wartime propaganda,
Mm.
and the human fascination with the unknown.
Right.
It's no wonder that these stories have endured for so long.
Yeah, and they continue to find new life in popular culture, in books, films, video games, and even conspiracy theory websites.
Right.
The Nazis have become almost a stock villain in these narratives,
Well,
representing a dark and mysterious voice that threatens to reemerge from the shadows.
It's like they've become a symbol of everything we fear. The dangers of unchecked power, the allure of forbidden knowledge, and the potential for human cruelty to be masked in a veneer of ideology and mysticism.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
The Nazis represent a kind of cautionary tale, A reminder of the dark side of human nature and the dangers of surrendering our critical thinking to charismatic leaders or seductive ideologies.
All right, so we've explored the historical context,
Mhm.
the key players, the symbols, the myths, and even the conspiracy theories surrounding Nazi occultism.
Right.
We've talked about secret societies, medieval castles, quests for mystical artifacts, and the enduring fascination with Nazi UFOs. But what about the legacy of all this? How does this dark chapter of history continue to influence our world today?
Yeah, it's amazing how these echoes of the past can ripple through time and shape our present. I
Mhm.
mean, on the surface, we're talking about a regime that was obsessed with ancient symbols and mystical artifacts, right?
Right. But those obsessions fueled some truly horrific acts.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile that? How do we make sense of this dark chapter of history without falling into the trap of kind of romanticizing it?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure. On the one hand, there's the danger of sensationalizing the occult aspect,
Right.
turning it into something, cool or edgy, which can trivialize the very real suffering inflicted by the Nazi regime.
Right. It's like that whole, Nazi exploitation genre in film and literature where you've got zombie Nazis and occult rituals and all sorts of outlandish scenarios.
Right.
It can be entertaining, sure, but it also risks desensitizing us to the horrors of what actually happened.
Exactly. We can't lose sight of the fact that the Nazis were responsible for genocide, for war crimes, for unimaginable cruelty.
Yeah.
Their fascination with the occult, however intriguing it might be, cannot overshadow the human cost of their ideology.
So how do we approach this topic responsibly? How do we learn from history without repeating its mistakes?
Well, I think it starts with education. With a nuanced understanding of the historical context.
Okay.
We need to be critical of the sources we encounter to separate fact from fiction and to be wary of narratives that romanticize or glorify the Nazis.
It's interesting how this fascination with Nazi occultism extends beyond just entertainment. I've seen people wearing symbols like the Black Sun or using runic imagery in fashion and tattoos.
Mhm.
It's almost like these symbols have been divorced from their historical context and have taken on a new life.
It's a complex issue, and it speaks to the power of symbols to evolve and be reinterpreted over time. On the one hand, it's a reminder that history is never truly static, that the past is always being reinterpreted and recontextualized by the present.
But there's also the danger of these symbols being appropriated by extremist groups who are seeking to tap into that dark legacy.
Right.
It's like they're trying to reclaim those symbols and imbue them with their own hateful ideology.
Yeah, that's why it's so crucial to be aware of the historical baggage these symbols carry,
Uh,
to understand their origins and the ideologies they have been used to represent. Ignorance is not a shield against the misuse of these symbols.
so it's not just about knowing the facts. It's about uh, understanding the power of symbols.
Right.
The way they can be used to manipulate, to inspire, and to divide.
Precisely. Yeah. And it's about being vigilant, about recognizing the warning signs of extremism and intolerance and speaking out against them.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it strikes me that the Nazis' obsession with the occult ultimately reflects a very human desire.
Right.
The desire to find meaning and purpose in a chaotic world,
Hmm.
to tap into something larger than ourselves,
Yeah.
to transcend the limitations of our everyday existence.
It's a universal human impulse, this search for something transcendent. But
Yeah.
as the Nazi experience shows, it can be easily twisted and distorted, leading to fanaticism and violence.
So it's a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
a reminder that even the noblest aspirations can be corrupted by ideology and ambition.
Right.
It's a reminder to be critical of those who claim to have all the answers, to be wary of those who promise easy solutions to complex problems.
And perhaps most importantly, it's a reminder to never take our freedom for granted, to cherish the values of tolerance, reason, and compassion that stand in such stark contrast to the darkness that consumed Nazi Germany.
Yeah, I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about. We've explored the historical context, the key players, the beliefs and the symbols that shape this bizarre and disturbing chapter of history, and hopefully we've done so in a way that encourages critical thinking and a nuanced understanding of the complex relationship between power, ideology, and the human desire for transcendence.
And perhaps by confronting these dark corners of the past, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the fragility of our own present and the importance of safeguarding the values that protect us from falling into the same abyss.
Indeed. So, to our listeners, keep those minds curious, stay informed, and never stop questioning the narratives that shape our understanding of the world. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.